What's up, guys? So we have Alphacore #1, first book not written by Eric July, by characters created by Eric July. We now have Chuck Dixon on this. Uh, I'm not trying to be that guy, where it's like, oh, this one's even better than the last one. But after rereading the trilogy, I will say that so far I think Alphacore is the best of the three. Um, I thought Isom 2 did get better than Isom 1, so we'll see where we go. I mean, hey, I do feel that Chuck has proven himself to be a good writer, and for somebody to say, oh, Chuck Dixon's the better writer over Eric July, I really don't think he's going to take offense to that. Chuck's been in it probably longer than Eric's even been alive, to be honest. So, I duh. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So right off the bat, we have all these police, guns drawn, looking at all pointed towards the bank. It looks like it's Texas Trust, and we see a man standing outside with a hostage. He says he's going to blow up the bank, that he's ready to go. He'll take everybody with him, yada, yada, yada. And suddenly he's just yoinked right up into the air. And we see that it is Brian of the Alphacore, who he's like, hey, do you know how to stop this bomb? Nope. Okay, well, Brian's like, well, I don't need you then. Bye. And just drops his ass down. He's like, later, dude. And throws the bomb up and lets it blow up. He then collects the guy who had fallen into the pool of a nearby hotel and, takes him into custody. Brian does get in trouble for this, and he is then reprimanded for it, since Alphacore wasn't directly contacted to intervene on this. More on that in a little bit here, because he's not done getting chewed out. He's gonna get chewed out by this person, and that person. So we find out pretty soon thereafter that the robbery slash bombing was actually set up by characters that we met in the first Isom book, although very briefly. They were in Club Merc at the time, but now they're just off doing their thing. These were set up by Michael and Lillian. And Michael had done this to clean up some undocumented funds within the bank that he can't justify, so it was supposed to just kind of take care of that for him. And now he has to deal with this all over, as well as deal with the Alphacore for intervening. So back at the nest, what we know to call this now, there's a dispute between Brian and Ingrid as far as Brian's antics, which got him, his antics got, the people on the old boob tube going over whether or not, you should be afraid of Alphacore knocking down your door and coming after you. Brian, he's like, what's the big deal? I stopped a bombing. I saved lives. Nobody got hurt. Big deal. Ingrid said, we're kind of on thin ice as is. You shouldn't have intervened. Now we have to deal with these jackasses on the TV going, these guys are going to come in and just at will come into your house and, kill you and your family. So Brian retaliates and says, well, you were doing favors for your friend. How is that any different? And it got him into kind of a back and forth where they were ultimately broken up. And soon thereafter, after those two were dismissed from their areas to go blow off the steam, they get a call saying hey, we definitely need some Alphacore help. We got XEPs at this area, and our police are not going to be able to handle this one. And so we are then taken to a motel where police are stationed outside the door before the call was made. And just the door just explodes outward. And then we see, spoiler alert, one of my favorite characters of this, Galvin James. He is just like a psychopath with electric powers. He was a lot of fun. He's got no love for the police department. He was all about making them squeal and frying bacon and all that fun stuff. So he is whooping police ass left and right, and then out of nowhere he is just kicked in the face, thrown off his game, and we then get to meet Braxwell, the third member of the Alphacore. Braxwell doesn't say anything. He just comes in, whoops Galvin's ass, hands him over to the police, and off he goes. He's gone. So comes in, whoops ass, goes. That's Braxwell in a nutshell right there. So then after this is taken care of, we go back to the main police headquarters where we see they're interrogating the bomber from the beginning. We find his name is Cecil, and the police are less than convinced that Cecil is smart enough to have made a bomb, and are already under the assumption that he is being paid off by somebody else who actually created it, and he's just kind of the front man for it. But then Cecil's lawyer comes in, the bleeding heart from the boob tube, and his name is Ridley, and he dismisses the police so he can talk with his client. They find out Cecil didn't really give anything to them, and did not give anything that would lead him back to Lillian and Michael. After feeding Cecil, Ridley says, "Okay, I got another client I got to go see," and lo and behold, he goes over and sees Galvin. Shortly after Ridley leaves, Galvin is able to escape, and he's an electrical XEP, and one of the prison guards was foolish enough, instead of shooting him when grabbing the second guard, they shoot him with a taser gun. Well, that just charged up Galvin, and his escape was really easy after that. And well, Galvin had another motive in mind. He needed to go pay old Cecil a visit and kind of silence him real quick. So we see what happened with Cecil. He becomes a crispy critter, and police and Alphacore now, because realize that this murder is done by an XEP. So, and Ingrid is an investigator. This becomes more of an Alphacore matter, and they are finding that there is a connection between these two and Ridley, and now are wanting to contact Ridley to see if there is in fact a connection here. Galvin is kind of screwy, so it is possible he just did it just for shits and giggles. So the police decide that they're going to go look into Ridley. And Brian tells Ingrid, "Okay, I need you to go track down Galvin." And then Brian is then going to go back to the Texas Trust Bank and, see what was going on with it, because it just seems a little convenient that the person who was going to bomb a bank and the police weren't trusting that he was the front man. They want to go see what that was all about. So that's the plan. So everybody goes to where they're going, Um, so Michael and Lillian each have to send a person to kind of fix the situation after Lillian no longer is trusting of how Michael is handling things. Feels like things are getting out of hand, so she sends in a specialist to go take care of the situation, and so does Michael. And so the first person we get to meet is Benny. He's an unassuming man. He's kind of a larger individual, red hair, and then has an interesting attire, shall we say. And he just walks in, and we notice that he's got a way of convincing people to do what he wants. Because the bank manager wasn't willing to listen, Benny simply said a few more words, and lo and behold, they're back at the safety deposit box where Benny makes the switch and is on his way. So on Benny's way out, he passes by Brian and Billy Bob Quinn. Now, Brian is the first to talk with the bank manager, and that's where we leave it. Obviously, he's going to want to go investigate further, so that's where we're at. We then cut over to Ingrid with the assistance of a police officer named Wilkins. And they're looking into where Galvin is, so they're just going over some known associates. And then they come outside of the apartment of an individual named Montana. And they have a warrant, and the person's not letting them in. And they can tell somebody's there. Their TV was on, then it got cut off. So instead of kicking in the door, Wilkins says, well, allow me, and demonstrates he is actually a low-level exec. And they are able to get in there. And Wilkins is just saying, hey, I kind of more or less use it for parlor tricks. I can't really do a whole lot here. I can just manipulate metal like locks and things like that. I've been using it for ways of opening up lids to win some money at the bars. But shortly after they come into the apartment, we then see Wilkins being attacked by an electric shock, and out comes Galvin. And now it's just one-on-one with Galvin and Ingrid. And there's just an intense fight between the two. Galvin's just quipping, and Ingrid keeps raiding him his rights as the fight goes on. And then Wilkins is able to come back to real quick and assist. And that's just enough time for Ingrid to be able to knock Galvin out the window, knocking him out, and they're able to place him under arrest. So now, meanwhile, back at the bank, Brian's, he's talking with the bank manager, and Billy Bob Quinn starts causing a ruckus over there, and we find out he is in fact a fire exec. So he's just head to toe, kind of looks like a rock figure at this point, as far as his own figure goes. He no longer looks human. He looks more like just a fire rock, is about the best way I can describe him. And, well, now Brian's got to go deal with him, and so he picks up one of the bank desks and just smacks the shit right out of Billy Bob. And, Billy Bob just goes ahead and he takes the hit and then just starts laying in the fire. And Brian's able to take it until he just can't anymore. And then he just hits the ground. He's singed a bit. And Billy Bob is able to go over to the deposit boxes. And then we learn what one he's looking for. But before he's able to do anything with the deposit box, the bank manager steps in, shuts the vault door, which is airlocked. Billy Bob um, you know, gets, all inflamed again, but there's no oxygen in there. So he sputters out, and then he's able to open up the vault door and allow the police, with the assistance of the fire department, to douse out the flames and go ahead and put him under arrest. And Brian had overheard what the deposit box was, so they went ahead and just took out the contents of it so they can investigate that one later. All right, so meeting back up with the police, we find that Ridley is at the studio again, doing his talks with the media, and he takes at least an intermission. If not, he's done for the day. And, the police approach him and want to talk with him. He doesn't really take them too seriously, kind of blows them off for the most part. And then just says he needs to go take a restroom break real quick. He's like, I'll be right back out. You don't have to follow me in there. And while in the middle of taking a piss, he is approached by a certain red-haired individual who then we next see leaving the bathroom, and the police are like, okay, what's going on here? He's kind of taking a while. So then they go ahead and go in there, and yeah, they find out that he jumped to his death, and he's down there. So we then follow them back to the headquarters, and they are able to see that Benny was at both the bank, where the safety deposit box was exchanged, and he was never checked in or out over there. And also, they remember seeing him leave the bathroom, and they were like, that's one hell of a coincidence, and they are pretty sure that he is an except with, powers of persuasion, mainly just coming out of the voice. So they contact Alphacore headquarters, let them know what they're dealing with, and there goes Braxwell again. So Braxwell then arrives with the police officers over at Benny's place. Benny just kind of stumbles on out there. They were talking about wanting to break in, but now that Benny's just kind of coming out on his own free will, they don't have to do that. And he automatically is trying to say, you got the wrong house, this isn't it. And he's really surprised when Braxwell isn't falling for it, but instead picks his ass up, tapes his mouth shut, and then we realize, oh, well, Braxwell's been listening to some music this whole time, so, the whole time Benny's sitting there talking to him, Braxwell's just like nodding along. He ain't got a care in the world. Okay, so shortly thereafter, we see a couple other excepts come out to try and defend Benny, and again, Braxwell does Braxwell things, whoops ass, done. He's a man of action. He ain't got time for their shit. So while this is going on, back at the nest, we have Brian revealing what was in the safety deposit box. And so we see that it is a flash drive of sorts. And against everyone's better judgment, Brian's like, it's just a flash drive. How harmful can it really be? Insists that they take a look because it was worth trying to bomb the place. It was worth having somebody with flame powers come in and try and take it. This has got to be pretty valuable stuff. So wanna see what's worth all the hubbub. So like I said, against everybody's better judgment, it gets plugged in, and then realized it's a virus. All hell breaks loose, and we get one of the best Brian faces in the world. I love the boomer face that he gave right there. That was the greatest. Meanwhile, that virus alerted Michael and Lillian that it had been activated. And we find that actually it gives them control over the nest. So they proceed to fly the damn thing And where is it going to go to? Well, it starts making its way to the police headquarters. So they look at it, it's like, okay, I'm going to take the Alphacore station and I'm going to drive that bitch right into police headquarters. Just for shits and giggles, really. They're having a blast doing this. So after Braxwell dealt with all of the people at Benny's place, he sees that the nest is kind of taken off in a really quick manner. So he's like, okay, that's not right. He's gone. He's off to do to help in whatever way he can. Got Brian outside, trying his damnedest just to slow down the nest, and is relieved to see, oh, Braxwell's here to help too. But these two are just not able to handle it, so they're trying to stop it, but also Brian's calling out, nearby pedestrians to try and minimize collateral damage as best as possible. And it keeps getting closer and closer and closer to the base, and the police station's starting to evacuate. And out walks Wilkins, who just he's not having it. He's not having it. He's making his stand. This is basically his Tiananmen Square. He's just hand out saying no, and we just see him super power up, and he puts a stop to it, but unfortunately it cost Wilkins his life to do it. But he died a hero. And we see them put Wilkins we see him put Wilkins to rest. And afterwards, they meet up, the trio for the Alphacore, they meet up with Michael and Lillian. They found out, after doing some investigative research, courtesy of Ingrid there, that these two own a lot of the companies that are connected. So they deduced, yeah, it's these two. And there's not anything that they can do to physically tie, but it was more or less saying, we know you're involved. We know that this is you guys. And Michael and Lillian, they're getting ready for a vacation. They're boarding a plane at the time. And Ingrid's now kind of pissed off, because she had formed a bond with Wilkins, and all these antics from Michael and Lillian cost her a friend. And it pissed her off, and she said, okay, well, you guys think you're going to take a vacation? Busts out her whip, whips off whips off a couple of the plane's wings, front and rear. She felt better, even though Brian managed to let her know it's going to be short-lived. They're just going to find another plane and still proceed, but it was still satisfying in the moment, and she said, just don't ruin this for me. And that was the end of Alphacore. And like I said, a lot of fun. Everybody, got a moment to shine. I can't really say enough good stuff about this one. It was quite the page turner. I've read it several times since I got it. Chuck did an outstanding job here. So just a couple characters I want to highlight. We had Michael and Lillian. They're our main antagonists throughout all this. They're the guys controlling everything. Everything that happened in here was as a result of their interference. So definitely not people who are up to any kind of good. They're incredibly rich, very connected, and very powerful. They're excepts, but we still don't know what kind of powers they have. We see the eyes glowing and powers getting ready to, but they never are used. So I am curious as to what they are, because They didn't really sweat it too much when the trio from Alphacore showed up, and they are powerful. So I'm really kind of curious what kind of powers they have that makes them not worry too much about these very powerful individuals coming to confront them. So Ray and Sandy, we see them from they're basically your communications and your dispatch at the nest. They're the ones that are taking in the calls from the police when they need backup and dispatching the appropriate Alphacore member, if not the entire team. And Sandy, I believe, was also the one that was really trying to push back on Brian, going, don't do it. We don't need this as far as the flash drive is concerned. Galvin James, like I said, electrical powered except dude's a certified psychopath, loves causing pain and misery. He was a lot of fun to read. I really kind of referenced him more with like Cletus Cassidy from Spider-Man. Just an absolute psychopath on his own, and then when he gets electrically charged, just all hell breaks loose with this dude. I can't say how much fun he was. He's every time I saw him, I'm just like, yes, I can't wait to see more of Galvin. Billy Bob Quinn, although not as fun as Galvin, still a lot of fun. He bested Brian, so quite powerful, just not too bright. He put himself in a predicament where his flame powers were not going to be of use, so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of areas we're going to see him in the future, because both of those two have survived. And Benny, I am really interested to see what more we have with Benny. How far-reaching is his powers, and for what kind of duration? Does he have to be right there with his victim as he's manipulating them? Is it only, it's kind of like Jedi mind tricks where, it's only the weak-minded that fall for it? Can he do this to Exceps? Can he do this to a group of people? And then we do also learn that Exceps' powers can be strengthened. So to what extent can this go? Like the stunt that Braxwell pulled where he just kind of played some music in his ears to muffle out the words. Can that be something that can be overcome by somebody like Benny? Really, really interested to see where he goes. So the pros and cons that we see here. So again, Galvin and Brian, those were my two standout characters. They were so much fun to read. Galvin, absolute psychopath. Brian, he's got himself kind of a streak going on where he's not satisfied with just being commanded to do what is, asked of him. He was being reprimanded by all sorts of individuals. And we see him being reprimanded by another one of his superiors, and at this point he was just being kind of a smartass about it. At the end of it all, he was like, yes sir, permission to fly please. He was a hero. He wants to do good, and he looks like he's getting kind of tired of being told what to do when he feels that he can make these choices for himself. And I have a theory that he is eventually going to make his way off the Alphacore and kind of do his own thing. If just kind of theorizing some things. In fact, if I were to theorize between the three, I think Braxwell will probably remain. Ingrid it looks like she wants to kind of be more of an investigator and not so much a crime fighter. And I think Brian's going to go more the vigilante route, um, and that the Alphacore will no longer really be much of a thing outside of Braxwell. Um, and then also, as far as Brian is concerned, I really liked the Boomer moment. I was like, as somebody who's not very savvy with technology myself, I'm like, yeah, I can relate a bit. That's I was like, yeah, I feel like a dipshit and doing something stupid there. Um, so another pro that I really liked, I mentioned this just briefly. It was called the Schuster scale, and that is basically how they measure an excep's strength overall. And we then learn that, you can move up and down the scale. If you don't really use your powers start to dwindle. But if you really train up on them, you can really strengthen them. Or in like a moment of desperation, we saw Wilkins there at the end give his life, really pushed his body above and beyond what it was ready for, and ultimately cost him his life. But he saved, you know, the police headquarters, the nest, countless others. So good on him. R.I.P. Wilkins. He was a good guy. He was a good character. I really liked him. And I did touch on this as well. That the main characters, your main Alphacore guys, and also Michael and Lillian. You got a pretty good sense of who each one of these characters were. I felt that there was a good balance between them, and felt that everybody got a good amount of time within this story. So that was a lot of fun. The one con I would say would be in here is everybody seems pretty intelligent in here, but then we don't see that the police, after finding Ridley dead, they saw Benny there. They didn't try to backtrack and go, what the hell, like, did you push him out? Like, they never stopped to question him. Or could we have at least seen they made that attempt, but Benny was nowhere to be found, and then, they went back and did some investigative research. It kind of felt like there was something just missing right there. But that's really it. It's like, that was the only part that kind of made me go, that's a little odd that they just took him for dead and then just left that as is. And didn't think to investigate the person who had last seen him alive, even if it was like just a passing. All right, and so that wraps up Alphacore number 1. Again, thumbs up, loved it. Definitely worth the read. So far, it's the best thing to come out of Rippaverse, in my opinion. And I'm certainly looking forward to. They have to be working on another one at this point. There's no way. Chuck did an outstanding job, and I'm very much looking forward to the next one. But let me know what you guys thought. Did you like the story? Did you hate it? What did you like? What did you not like? Let me know. And as always, I'll see you on the next one, and we'll go from there. Thank you, and God bless.